WOKD, Winter Garden, Orlando.
Welcome to Real Family Talk with your host, Jay Real, where we talk about real issues facing us today. Enjoy the show. Real Family Talk. Hello. Welcome to another Tuesday edition or another show for Real Family Talk. This is your host, Jay Real. Oh, I'm doing great today. A little stressful at work, though. Finding out a lot of things you didn't know before. That's always stressful. As they say, when you pull the curtain back on the show, you find out a lot of things you weren't sure about before. But yeah, it's been interesting, y'all. I want to welcome the family that's joined me here tonight. We have in the building Miss Monica. How you doing, Miss Monica?
Doing good. How you doing, J Real?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Mr. Micah King, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. My job was great today. I'm sorry to hear about your work day.
That's good, brother. I'm glad that works out for you. And behind the boards tonight, how you doing tonight, Jeremy?
I'm good. How's everybody doing?
Oh, that's good. I'm doing pretty good, Jeremy, as I have already said. All right. Before we get jump into the show, we don't have a big theme. I guess the running theme tonight is we want to just deal with some issues related to Black America in the news, and so that's kind of what we're going to see. We're going to throw it back and forth through a couple of people on the panel here tonight with some different stories and discuss what they have brought to the table. But before we get there, I have an announcement to make. Thinking, as I always do. I want to, at the end of the month, we're hitting our about 6-month mark here that we've been doing the show. I've said before, I have thoroughly enjoyed myself. I hope that you, the family out there listening to us, has enjoyed what we do here. And so at the end of the month, what I want to do, that's going to be Tuesday, May 29th. I call it, I want to have a family show. From what I know of different people that have responded to me, we have some slightly confused people listening in Chicago, so shout out to y'all. I know that.
South Side?
South Holland. But
shout out to all of Chicago. West Side, North Side.
But,
Gary.
in addition to that, I know they're listening in Atlanta. I know Orlando's listening. And
some of Flint, Michigan is listening also.
Oh, Flint, Michigan.
Michigan in the house.
Flint, Michigan's in the house as well. That is just amazing. I am so blessed to have all of you people listening. Truly, I am. And but like I said, we got people in Orlando, and I'm sure they're listening in other places as well. But so May 29th, I call it a family show. And what I'd like to happen, we'll have a topic that night as well. But I just want people to call in on that day. Let us know how you think we're doing. You think we're great. You think we're awful. You think Jay Real is an Uncle Tom. You ain't
no Uncle Tom. You just look confused sometimes.
Whatever comments you want to call in on May 29th. We're going to give, I want to give the audience or the family an opportunity to do that. So we'll be looking forward to that. I think we'll have some fun. So before we throw it to Jeremy with his topic, I want to just, recently, I think it was this past weekend, they had a big arrest down in Osceola County. I'm sure you guys heard about this, of this racist organization, American Front, they call themselves. They made a large arrest of I think it was about 7 or 8 individuals, and they were talking about how they were basically planning a race war. They were out in the woods, and from what I was reading, out in the woods, and they have different little targets, of course, when you practice shooting, and the targets would have like afros to represent black people, or maybe even Jews out there, and they've been apparently in existence out there for quite some time. But of course, it's a kind of a shock to see something like that going on in your own backyard. I think in particular, they were somewhere in that St. Cloud areas where these individuals were operating out of. Did you guys hear about this? No, you guys missed this one?
No, you know,
Oh,
they try
man.
to hide so much news in Orlando. There's too many tourists. I'm surprised you heard about that.
Nah, yeah, it's making front page news on definitely all the local channels. They're talking about it. But yeah, what I wanted to ask though, one of the comments that I've seen about this is the question of, have we seen sort of an increase in these types of groups? You know, of course, we're leading up to the election in November. You know, hopefully, as my panel would say, the re-election of President Obama coming in November, and so they're questioning whether or not we're seeing this particular rise due to the fact that here we go again, potentially putting a black man in office. And of course, there was a lot of people that say, you know, white people across the country were quite upset that there initially was a black president here. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's probably a combination of the things that were going on nationally with the Trayvon Martin case, as well as that I know, especially initially when President Obama was elected, they had a lot of very racial comics that came out, and even certain paraphernalia that they would wear and different things was representative of, you know, very racial or prejudiced comments towards the president. So I think it probably has increased it, but we do have to remember that where we are. I mean, even though it is in this day and age, it shouldn't be an issue. There are still very many organizations that are very racist and prejudiced in the South, and unfortunately, St. Cloud is one of those areas that I've heard of as well.
Osceola County.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's sad. I want to know, how did the monkey come in affiliation with black people? Because that's what the shirt that they was wearing dealing with Obama. It had a black monkey on it, and I don't understand how they come up with these different animals that actually represent black people with the afro. That's crazy. Because I'm reading about it in Osceola County, and it's showing different pictures, and they had a monkey, an afro, and different things. It's just horrible about a satanic skinhead race group. I don't think Obama has anything to do with it, because it has to be way more people that's supporting Obama. You know, not everybody, but a lot of other people that are supporting Obama besides, you know, some local Floridians. So I don't think Obama has anything to do with it. I think people really just want to see a change across the world. But I don't think Obama has nothing to do with it, though, personally. I think that, you know, skinheads, just like the KKK, have never went anywhere. Just like last week we were speaking about the Black Panther Party that never went anywhere. They just, you know, probably just now getting caught.
All right. And I would agree with you on that, Mr. King. I definitely don't think having a black president has increased racism in America to the point we're seeing a higher increase in enrollment in these types of groups. I think racism in America is a part of who America is, for that matter. So that there is no specific event that needs to occur to increase enrollment in these types of organizations. You know, speaking of another incident, you know, talking about racism in the local community here, something that I didn't realize. I mean, I knew the Ocoee area kind of has an affiliation to it, but someone brought something to my attention about Ocoee today, and talking about some of the racism that they've experienced growing up in Ocoee. In particular, they talked about I won't call it street, but there's a street as recent. Well, I mean, 1994 is not recent per se, but as of 1994, up until that point, there was a sign that basically, you know, said, you know, the N-word is not allowed past this point. You know, and this is 1994 in Ocoee. Like, really?
Now, come on now. I went to West Orange. That wouldn't be so shocking to me.
I went to West Orange too, but I'm still shocked that the sign was there in 1994. That caught me off guard. I wasn't thinking that.
You must did not have to use the bathroom at West Orange, because if you went to the bathroom in West Orange, that stuff is sprawled all over the walls. KKK, kill the N-words. All that stuff was all over the walls.
Well, again, I'm not denying the racism. I just didn't know signs were up. That's my point. I didn't recognize the signs were still up to let you know this is not where you're supposed to be. That's my point. I understand that racism exists, but I was surprised to learn that there were still signs that will blatantly show you this is not some place you can be because your skin color is not correct.
Wasn't Rosewood, made about in Ocoee or something in that area?
It was in Florida.
It was in Florida. It wasn't Ocoee. But Ocoee did have its own riot back in the day too, though.
Yeah, Ocoee did have a riot. That's something else.
A race riot back in the day.
Yes, exactly. All right, we'll move on. Remember, you can join these topics, conversations, I should say, 407-894-1680, 407-894-1680. So we'll go ahead and move into our first news topic. So go ahead, Jeremy. What you got for us?
I was looking at I was looking at this blog on CNN.com by Jack Cafferty, and it asked the question: how much has America's first black president changed race relations? And just a few points in here was in 50 interviews in one such Ohio county, 5 people raised race directly as a reason why they will not vote for President Obama. Some of them said the only reason the president won in 2008 is because many blacks voted for the first time. And some suggest racism surfaces during rough times like the recession, high unemployment, or the wars overseas and can serve as an excuse for social anxieties. And so what do you guys think about that? Has the president changed race relations?
I would say no. I don't think he's really changed race relations. I know that was one of the issues. Personally, that was one of the issues I thought that he would seek to kind of tackle, especially with his biracial identity. And so I thought he had a great perspective to kind of present to worlds. I know because when you think about his upbringing, he was obviously raised by his mother and his grandmother and grandfather, I would assume. And of course they were white. And so, but he grew up and he graduated from these schools, and then now he married this black woman. And then of course they were going to a predominantly black church from what it looks like of what I've seen of Trinity. And so he's kind of seen kind of that both worlds, because I'm sure growing up he had no idea what a black church was like, and then marrying this black woman and then experiencing this black church, it had to be a sort of different perspective that he can see from two different worlds. And so that was something that I kind of expected him to do. And I certainly feel like he has not done that. And I think in general, though, people really haven't changed their opinions on race. I don't think they've changed very much at all. I think, if anything, it's kind of made things worse, I think, more than anything. 407-894-1680. Miss McCrae just walked in the building. Hello, Miss McCrae.
Good evening, everyone.
I'll let somebody else comment, though. Anybody?
I don't think that it has changed. I mean, I personally feel like people have become more outspoken about race because he has, but it hasn't necessarily improved anything. Some people have negatively been more outspoken, and some have been positively more outspoken. Right. But he hasn't actually, to my knowledge, mentioned anything about reducing stereotypes and racism in our country to any point.
And you know what? Stop the presses. But I'm agreeing with Jay Real on this one. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Just check your temperature.
I agree, though. I mean, it seems that things are worse now. He's brought out the worst in people, unfortunately. The things that are happening, they were happening before we had race issues, but now it's just it's that hate that's coming out more and more. It's ugliness with it, and he hasn't talked about it much, which is disappointing. But I still think he's gonna be reelected.
That's the beauty of it. But
that's the beauty. It can get better.
It can get better. But I think a lot more people voted after George Bush and that situation that happened with him. And we really didn't want to see similarities. So they went out and voted for Obama because they saw what George Bush brought to the table. And we've seen in history what, those particular type presidents can bring to the color of that. To the table. But then they saw somebody with a different color, and then they went out and voted for him. I think that was the thing. But then when he came in, and as Jay Real would say, didn't make the changes that he promised, I think that's what probably brought out the hatred about people, because people were expecting, they were just expecting so much, but they didn't really get it. So that can bring out a lot of hatred.
Well, I go back. For me, the first instance that I noticed that he wasn't going to kind of be that key change figure, to me, was when initially before all the election stuff, and when he was campaigning, and the issue came up with Jeremiah Wright, and to me, that was his first opportunity to really kind of set a platform as to the bridge that he would try and bring to kind of help people, come together and not be so angry, if you will, because we listen to, and at this point everybody knows the comments that they tried to take down Jeremiah Wright with, and while I advocate and say the things he said and the way he said it, certainly there was a better way to kind of bring across the message. But growing up in a black church, everybody understands the overall message that he was trying to bring, and that empowerment that we use the black church to do, because that's what we preach, empowerment in the black church. And so that was the overall message that he was bringing. And so when the president stepped out to say and just kind of dismissed everything he said, made the suggestion that he's never heard these kind of comments from him before, and basically just distanced himself, I think that was a key moment to show that he was not that particular figure. And again, for me, that was a disappointment. And of course, he doesn't have to be that person. It doesn't have to be him. It could be somebody else. But I just thought with the platform that he had, that would have been a perfect opportunity to kind of bridge the gap, to say, hey, listen, white America or whomever else, the reason why he's saying this, and just get, kind of giving that explanation. I thought he had the perfect opportunity to do that, and it was disappointing that he didn't.
But in politics, you cannot do that. In politics, if somebody is saying something that is wrong, but you may feel that it's right, but everybody else may feel that it's wrong, you are still in politics. It's just like if you go to a job and you may feel that I can do that outside of work, but at my job, I cannot do this. That's how it is.
Well, I'm going to say this. And
you can wear what you want to wear outside of school, but once you get in school, you have a dress code. And it's the same thing in politics. You can listen to certain music, but when you at work, you can't listen to this type of music.
I'm with you. And again, 407-894-1680 if you want to join this conversation. I hear you, and I definitely understand the political situation or the political nature of that particular situation. But I'm going to say this, and I don't want to get, because y'all will get me going, but but I'm going to say this. From everything I'm supposed to learn about President Obama and everything that the people try to sell you on President Obama, the first thing that they sell you on is that he, while he is political, he is also supposed to be sort of a man of the people. And so from that perspective, I would expect a man of the people to at least try and bridge the gap. Now, or maybe ultimately you do distance yourself from him, but at least try and bridge the gap. That to me, that's what a man of the people does, because there is an explanation there.
And how was he supposed to do that?
Hold on. There is an explanation there. And the people that truly criticized him for his being in that church, there's nothing he was going to say to change their minds. But he wasn't saying it for them. He was saying it for those that were on the outskirts who supported him but didn't quite understand why or how he could be in a place like that. And that's who he was saying it for. He wasn't saying it for the Sean Hannitys and the Neil Bortz, because they're never going to understand. They're never going to accept his reasoning for being in that particular church, or for reasonings of being in any particular black church where you had these kind of empowerment messages going on. So they're not going to understand it. You're not saying it for them. You're not saying it to convince Republicans. You're saying it for those Democrats who are with you but don't quite get why that message is okay. That's what you're saying it for. That's why you bridge the gap with those individuals. And that's my point. And I'll leave it there. But anybody else?
Hold on. Let me read you some of the comments some people posted on here. Randy, some guy named Randy, says he doesn't believe he's changed one bit. The rich The rich, corporations, and politicians will roll out wedge issues like race, abortion, gay marriage, and religion anytime they think the middle class and poor have caught on to the game of rob and pillage that they engage in. It's the ignorant masses that keep believing this nonsense from corporate media. That's the real problem. Another one, Pete in Florida. As a 68-year-old white male living in the South, I've never before heard such a constant daily stream of ugly and overt racist remarks as what I now hear every day from other whites. It is just scary just how much so many whites just flat out hate Obama and his family, and by extension, virtually all other blacks. And I got one more I really do want to read. From Mark in Nevada. It says, remember when the president was running, he described his grandmother as just a typical white person. And he is just a typical black person who doesn't take responsibility for anything. Look at all the black unwed mothers who are out there that aren't getting any child support from their fathers. And yet Jesse Jackson and Sharpton will blame the man for all the dysfunctional happenings to the black community in America. When will all blacks, and I'm stereotyping here, own up to their responsibilities in society? Shameless, and yet we have one as our president. Allen West or Herman Cain are above all of this. They would have made great presidents. I know you like that comment, Jim. What you think about that
one? Well, I can't disagree. I think Allen West and Herman Cain are all right. But I think it kind of, it's one of those things where in his statement, and I'd assume that statement was made by a white individual who commented on that. But even in his statement, the way that he brings his message across, while I would say if you ask that individual if he was trying to kind of be racist, he would outright tell you no. But the way that message is presented, it comes across as racist. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the issues that we have between the different communities is we really don't know how to communicate when it comes to race. Because there's a way to say things and have people listen to you and still come across with the same exact message, but it's all about tact. And that's what we're lacking in this whole racial conversation is the tact. And I think that's where we can improve, and that's where we have to start in order to kind of heal some of these issues that we have lingering out there in the world. Anybody else?
I absolutely agree. I think that a lot of times we go to two extremes. We either are not very tactful or we don't really express ourselves because we're so afraid of being politically correct. And so then in both instances, we're not communicating what we really are wanting to say, and it's coming out wrong and oftentimes offends someone. So I agree that we really need to learn as a country how to talk to other people of other cultures about issues that are culturally related so that we can make change in that community instead of just fighting.
Well, I don't know. I think I kind of agree with the gentleman because I like chicken and I like hot sauce, but I don't find it racist to say that black people like chicken. I don't find it racist to say things because I believe in the truth, and if the truth is the truth, then it's not racist. But how he said it was racist, it's kind of like, no, the man was kind of right. People need to really stop blaming others for their downfall or their problems. It's like, step up to the plate and, do what you got to do to get where you need to be. But a lot of people get sensitive. You say certain things and it's just you get sensitive. As long as you don't call me the N-word, I'm good to go because, that's all that really matters to me. Other than that, you can say what you got to say because it's basically an opinion. But, a lot of African Americans or Americans of color, they feel that if a white person says this, that, and the third, that it's racist. And it's like, well, the truth is the truth. If a white person, black person, or Asian person is saying it, if it's the truth, then it's the truth.
But, even thinking about when you kind of use both terms of a person of color or an African American. We oftentimes, and I've even experienced this in a corporate America, where there were so many different names that the individual didn't even know which name to say, so they said all of them: Latino, Spanish, Hispanic American, Mexican American, Puerto Rican American, all these different names, because he didn't know what to say, because he didn't want to offend anybody.
That's America,
because people are so, and I agree too, to an extent, sensitive. But what do? Because people aren't communicating, what do you want? Exactly. And then everybody wants something different.
Right.
Too, so.
And then you can't get on one accord, because somebody in the Latin community, is going to prefer Hispanic community, or with black folks is African American or black folks. But you mentioned something about the N-word, which I have an issue with, and that's probably another topic that we can talk about. We get offended when they call us N-word, yet we throw it out back and forth, and it's everywhere.
I get offended when anybody call me the N-word.
And it's everywhere. It's like it's nothing nowadays.
It is.
But when
it's
somebody else, but then when somebody else, it still has that power. If someone outside of our race says it, then it's an issue. But it's all in our music. It's everywhere.
That's what I was going to say. Actually, the N-word doesn't bother me at all. I don't care if a white person called me an N-word,
That's a problem.
No, it's not, because it's so funny. I've seen this billboard, you know how churches put the little signs up. I saw this in the church when I was in Nashville, and I saw it at a church here. It said, "He who angers you controls you." So in that whole adage, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Why are you getting upset when somebody who obviously doesn't like you, they're just trying to get a rise out of you. So when you react to it, you're really just kind of giving them power. And that's the only reason they're saying it, to get a rise out of you.
I feel that people fought and marched plenty of years so that we wouldn't have to be called that particular word.
True enough.
And now it's just like, well, I'm going to just accept it in my music, and I'm not going to let them get a rise out of me.
Well, true. People fought for a lot of things, but just that's not going to change everyone's opinion. A lot of people who fought, a lot of people weren't even alive when they were fighting these fights that'll call you that, But, I mean, what I'm just trying to say is, like, why let that bother you so much? When you really don't have any control over it. You're not going to control who's going to call you the N-word. So if you get upset every time well, I'm not saying get upset, but if you react every time someone calls you that, you're really just giving them power and say, oh, now I know how to get this person off their game.
Well, see, it really wouldn't be another. If it was my color, somebody of a color descent, that's when I would step in and be like, hey, don't call me that. But if it's somebody else, Asian or a white man, I would not even, like you say, I would just ignore it. Like, okay, that person is just ignorant. That's why they don't have a bigger vocabulary to use another word. But if it's a person of color, then I would step in and I would say something, because I don't think enough of us say anything about the particular word. They just call it like it's, oh, what's up, homie. Instead, they say, oh, what's up, my N-word, And then I have to step in and say, no, don't call me that. But I don't think if it's enough of us that are actually doing that.
Right.
I think a lot of times it's the intent. The actual word, the definition of the word, if many people look it up, is, I believe, a stingy person.
It's ignorant.
Or
perhaps
an ignorant person. Right. There's different definitions, I guess. But, the intent, however, is they're using it as a form of being hurtful. And I think that's what makes people, upset about it, is because, in most cases, and sometimes even of our own color, we'll use it, oh, you in whatever, because we're trying to hurt that person. And so that's why when we hear another person of another race say it, we know that they know that's an offensive term, so they're using it in that same vein to try to hurt you.
But that also goes back to intent, because, like I said, I talk about it being commercialized, is what I call it, because when it's so prevalent in the popular music of today. They're using that word in America. They're using that word in Japan. They're using that word in Australia. They're using that word in New Zealand. They're using that word in Europe. They're using that word, in Asia. You know what I'm saying? So from that perspective, the intent for the most part, you're not seeing very much intent these days of someone trying to be negative. You're seeing more of an intent to somebody trying to be hip with the popular music of today. And so, they talk about it all the time. You go to, artists talk about it all the time when they go to Japan. These artists, most of these artists can't speak Japanese, and a lot of Japanese people don't necessarily speak English. But they go to these concerts and they know every single word that this artist is saying, including removing the use of the N-word, you know, and you know, when they see him coming off the plane, you know, what is the first thing they want to say? So, you know, it's commercialized. And so my perspective on it is, you know, I don't really get angry when I see the word used, you know, like Mr. King says, it kind of shows your ignorance, that you would want to even call me that. But I think the use of the word should just be removed simply because it has been commercialized. You know, it is no longer some term that we own. It is in popular culture. It is a part of popular slang. And to me, that right there is just offensive. Just the fact that it's in popular culture, like really popular culture.
Right.
Japanese people can't say, you know, hi, how you doing today? But they can say the N-word. You know what I'm saying? I think that's just sad. That is a just sad situation. But
that's your capitalist dollars at work.
Exactly.
That's what that is.
That's all that
And
is.
you're supportive then.
And I am.
To.
Make your money, people. But that doesn't mean it's not a bad situation. 407-894-1680.
You got to take the bad with the good.
407-894-1680. All right, we're going to roll over here. And Miss Monica has a topic she wanted to bring to the table. Go ahead, Miss Monica.
Yes, I was kind of thinking about some different things that I could bring to the table today. And one of the things that kind of it kind of took me back of one of my thoughts way back when I was in graduate school. I took a course. Basically, it was a mandatory course on diversity and how to implement counseling in different cultures. And one of the things that kind of brought up a red flag for me is in my textbook, it had maybe in the first or second sentence had identified the African American culture as one of which has the highest single parent population. And so that bothered me because I don't want to be identified as the culture that has the highest single mothers. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I went and kind of tried to find some articles about it and found some kind of interesting stuff from various censuses and estimates from censuses. And it really is true. I mean, we do have the highest population of single mothers. And one of the statistics is that basically only 30% of blacks are married. Of those married, compared to, I think, 44% of other races and various other things, they mentioned 21% of these families were married with children, and that is the lowest out of all the racial groups, which was the average of 32.4. Nearly 1/3 of these families were single mothers with children under 18, and a lot of these estimates came from the 2007 estimates of the census. However, the numbers from the 2010 census is actually lower than the estimates were, which is even more saddening. Of course, you know, I don't really know how they created the census estimates in 2007, but these are the real deal numbers in 2010. Then they mentioned slightly less than 20% of black families were grandparents raising their grandchildren, and the average was 10, so double were African American families. And then they mentioned some historical things, and I'm not much of a history buff, but they said that in the 1980s was generally when African American families started to crumble. There was a large number of single parents. And I'm curious to know, and if you're listening and you happen to have this information, what happened in the 1980s?
Crack.
Hip-hop.
Yeah.
No, it's crack.
I would say crack.
It's crack.
I was about to say that's when crack.
I would say crack.
The
that
crack
was,
epidemic.
and not even crack, drugs. That was very large in the 1980s, and so I think you saw. You can even see it, you know, with watch. Speaking of hip hop, in sort of the generation today, you can even see kind of that transition from the kids that were born prior to the 1980s. In their aspect, because those are, we're talking about people who are about in their 30s at this point, and the difference in how the population that came after the 1980s even just views the black condition in America. Most of the people who are in their 30s now, they see the condition as it is, which is better, but still needing a lot of improvement. Whereas you talk to kids these days who came after the 1980s, a lot of them are being raised by mothers who are 15 years older than them, or 12, 13 years older than them, you know, so that at that time when they had them, they were kids themselves. So a kid can't train another kid. It's just not going to work.
Especially if they don't have any support from a grandmother or a great grandmother.
Support. I mean, it sounds good, but you know, truth be told, kids can't raise kids. And so you talk to them, and they don't even see, you know, even when it's presented to them, they don't see that there's this changing of the guard as far as where we are as a community. They don't see that the separation is there. You know, I talk to my kids sometimes, and they talk about how at their school there's no, you know, everybody talks to everybody, but then you break down what happens at lunch, and then they'll obviously tell you, oh, well, at lunch, you know, everybody separates. So it's like, so you think everybody's cool with each other, but at lunch everybody's separated. You know, it's like that transition that they're not seeing it. And so you keep having this generation that doesn't see those things as far as the importance of family and whatnot, because you do have a lot of kids who have been raised by single parents, and single parents do a great job, but it still doesn't take away from the family unit. I think there's something to be said to have that family unit.
Right, and I agree. I think a lot of times it is a broken system where over 30 years no one has made many attempts to try to fix the system or try to change the system. And a lot of times I think it has a lot to do with various things. I think as a community, oftentimes we have the stigma of asking for help. Oh, if I ask for help, if I need some help, if I need resources, oh, they're going to look at me like this, or I don't want to go to counseling for my relationship because, you know, I'm not crazy and that's for crazy people, or, you know, various other things that we don't get the necessary resources available because we tend to be a proud people, and we don't want that. You know, we don't want people to think anything less than that. And so we've developed these, you know, to some degree, and everyone hasn't, of course. You know, my parents were together for a very long time. I was an adult when they had separated. But you know, we have these broken relationships, and we don't know how to actually mend them, or we don't provide that support to maintain them. And therefore, we end up with a lot of single mothers or a lot of very young mothers, because we don't provide support of educating them about certain things. Like in the church, we don't go into detail about, you know, sex and abstinence. We just say don't do it, and then we keep walking. Right. Well, you know, any teenager that you tell just don't do it, they're probably more than likely going to just go do it because you haven't provided any explanation why you shouldn't do it. So
we all did. Some of us just like to learn the hard way.
Exactly. And children, you know, they're going to test the boundaries. And so we as a community haven't provided that support. But yet we, you know, tend to complain about it. And it's a sad situation.
That's one thing we can do good is complain. I definitely agree with that. Black people will complain about nothing.
Oh, I'm going to leave that one alone. There's another comment to make here, too. I was reading, I caught a blip of this website that I visit sometimes, and there was a comment in there where they were kind of blown away. There was the tagline said, "Have we changed our definition of what we call a hoe?" was the tagline. And so when you click on it, it had a Facebook post by a young lady who was 17. And what she was commenting to, I guess, one of her friends was that she wasn't a hoe because while she was only 17, she's only been with 5 guys. And so it was like, wow, that's the mindset of, you know, and I'm not saying every 17-year-old thinks this way, because clearly that's not the case. But the idea that there are some out there that kind of, that have that philosophy. Yeah, I'm only 17. I've only been with 5 guys, so I can't be a hoe. As if to say, I mean, what is the number?
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the number for you at 17? You know, but that shows you the changing mindset
the times
of our
have definitely
youth,
changed.
Right.
You know, and where they are, and why we do see these increasing numbers. Because if this is your mindset, then, you know, to get pregnant at 17 doesn't even faze you. That's like, oh, okay, well, you know,
that's just the norm now.
Yeah, it is. It's not even a big deal anymore.
Exactly, and that's
16
that's
get pregnant.
change.
That's one of the most popular shows.
Exactly,
You
people
know?
loving it. People loving it. People loving
They
it.
have,
It's a shame.
they have some girls that were skip school to go get pregnant so their kids can have the same birthday. That's what kids are doing these days.
Yeah, it really is like it's really a shame because as the kids today, as much information that's received, you would think they would be mature wise. You would think they would be further along than we are. But like when you hear those stories, like Mr. King said, you got girls trying to get pregnant on the same day, so their kids like that's a childlike mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, that's like at its best, that's a childlike mentality. Or the pregnancy packs that you hear at a lot of schools, like 20 girls are all trying to have a baby around the same time. You know, it's just like what?
Yeah, exactly. That's just so childish.
It's in their face all the time. If you listen to the music, what's the most popular song that's out right now? That birthday cake song with Chris Brown and Rihanna. If you listen to the lyrics of that song, and it's jumping, like the kids just sing it, whatever the lyrics are, everything. If you listen to the lyrics or read the lyrics of
Mr. Cray knows she know them lyrics.
I don't know those lyrics. I refuse. Because every time I'm like, what?
I don't know. I thought didn't you have that breezy shirt on last?
I'm just
I think it's just cake. To be honest, with you. That's all that it is.
No,
that's all that I'm telling you. That's the chorus.
It's a little bit more than that with the lyrics. But the top 10 songs, if you look at them, they're all about sex. Not about love, not about relationships, how bad you want it, how good you're going to do it to me.
Well,
that's what it's about.
To be honest, if you turn on 94.5, the same song about sex and about love.
You're right.
But if you turn on that country station, or if you turn on that rock station, they have so many more different topics that their music is about versus with black people music. 94.5, that's why I can't listen to it in my restaurant because they're going to put on some R. Kelly bump and grind, or they're going to put on something that's sexually related, and one of the pastors come in, we have to quickly turn that off. But when we put it on the other station...
You listen to 94.5.
I do not listen to 94.5.
No, I'm talking about the pastor.
Oh, he might listen to that. I'm not going to shout out to that pastor. But, when you put it on any other, when you put it on country, rock and roll, none of their music, all of their music is about love or a life experience versus black people music. It really makes no sense to me.
You're generalizing a little bit. You're generalizing. All our music is not about sex and love. All the music that's promoted is about sex.
Right.
All
that's
the music
that's the promoted. Now, if I'm give a little research project to the parents out there. Hit the internet. Do your due diligence. Do your homework. You don't want your kids listening to the music on the radio about sex. Get on the internet. There's a lot of positive artists out there. And when you're talking about Christian artists, just positive artists, or even hip hop artists, they don't speak about sex. They have love songs, or they speak about issues like unemployment issues, political issues. They speak on that. Go search for it and present it to your kids. They beat some of their beats are bumping too.
It's all of their beats.
It's just like the music that's easily accessible, that's in their face every time they click on this website.
Everywhere.
The thing that first pops up is the sex song.
Yes.
So it's easily accessible to them.
And that was part of what I was going to say when J. Real was talking about the girl and her definition. I think that we've allowed too much of the media to control what our children think, what they believe a family is, what a woman is supposed to act like, look like, think like, what a man, who they should be looking for, or anything. And so especially as a Christian community, we really need to put up enough defenses so that there isn't, that the world is not beaming louder than we are. And that we have that support, that we're sharing with them. This is what kind of husband or wife you need. This is what kind of, thing that you should do. This is how you should behave in a public area. All those things we don't do. And and it's important, and we've got to really take a stand. Otherwise, everybody else, BET, MTV, VH1, and everybody else is going to make a decision and allow them to, believe however it's going to be. And then you're going to wonder why my child acts like this. And, that if you don't take control, nobody else will. There was a call. Not anymore. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Remember 407-894-1680. 407-894-1680 if you want to join these conversations.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we've gotten lazy as parents in general, because we do sit back and say, all they play on the radio is this. All they play on is that. Turn the station. There's 2 gospel stations in Orlando. There's actually 2 gospel stations. There are many other Christian stations. You know, we can listen to anything. Oh, well, they listen to in their room. Take the radio. When I was young and I got in trouble, the TV either got unplugged, taken out the room, the radio got taken out. I mean,
The phone was gone.
the phone, like, well, we didn't even have a phone to be gone.
I
I mean, it was a revolution when my brother got the what was that came out when they gave you had your own number, ring the same line, but it was
Different ring.
a different ring.
Two-way
That was a
or something.
revolution. So take the phone. They don't have to have a phone.
Best
Ain't
thing
no
we had
there's no legal
was a
thing saying they gotta have a
Yeah.
phone, that they gotta have an iPod.
Some quarters for the paper.
I know.
Paper.
Give them a cassette player and some headphones, and tell them go listen to some music now. So then they gotta listen to some positive
I
music
couldn't even
because that's the
close
only
the door.
tapes you go find.
The door had to be open.
That's what I'm talking about.
Or you had no door.
You know, we-
Exactly. You had no door. They took that door right off the
door.
head.
Right,
There's
exactly.
none of that.
I mean, I honestly believe we as a country in general, we've gotten lazy as parents. We're just trying to put everything off on what's on TV and what's on the radio.
Trying to find
That's your
another
house.
babysitter.
Exactly, that's what it is. It's an easy babysitter.
Right. They just put them in front of the television, and that let the television. You'll watch that, and while I'm doing what I got to do.
Exactly.
Because as Jay Real said, most of the parents are only 13 years or 15 years older than the child, so they feel like I still have a life to live myself. So they just try to use the television as a babysitter, or either give it to grandma, and then I go live my life and go have my fun. What I'm trying to do.
And the majority of people that I did quite a few years of in-home counseling with parents of all different walks of life. And the same thread is the parent didn't know how to be consistent, the parent didn't know how to develop boundaries with their child, and the parent let the child be the parent. And so the child said, I'm not going, and the parent says, well, if you don't want to go, it's okay. I'm going to let you do what you like. Or the child said, I'm going to go somewhere, and they walk out the door. And then the
I wouldn't
parent
have
is
no legs.
upset. They ran away, and I don't know what to do. Well, we all know what our parents would have done.
I wouldn't have had no leg.
How about I'm a grown woman and there's still things that I won't say or do in front of my parents, or I'll listen to what they have to say. That's just the stronghold that they've had on me as I've grown up, and those are the values that I hope to pass on to my children one day. But it kills me. It's one show I was watching, and the boys, or even when you watch the Kardashians, if you've ever seen clips of them, the way they talk to their mama, as opposed to what else is popular, the Braxtons, how they handle their mom, there's a stark difference right there.
Yeah.
They don't talk back to their mama because their mama's they're grown women. They're like, okay, mom, all right.
Right. And she check them, too.
Okay, yes.
Like, who you
Yeah.
talking to?
Right.
Exactly.
I am mama.
Exactly.
That's what it's about. That's what you need. To the point that you are grown women, that you are a grown person, they still have that type of authority. That's respect. There's
That's
a lack
exactly
of
what it is.
respect going on.
And that's the bigger issue.
But they still instill it in their children. Like, if I'm a lawyer, then you're going to be a lawyer. It's nothing you can say about this. You're going to go to school for lawyer. You're going to do everything that I did so that you can have a better start in life. Even though that lack of respect is not there, they still make their children do what they feel is best when it comes to education and when it comes to going forth in life. A lot of Caucasian people that I hang around, their parents make them do certain things. Versus in black communities, as Miss Monica said, it's whatever you want to do. You make the decision because this is your life type thing. Versus in the other community, it's this is what I did. If I do this is the best thing for you until you learn something else at the least. Until you go to college and learn something else.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you on that.
From my experience,
Yeah.
rather.
I would
I
disagree
think
too.
I would say the difference is not so much a lot of what's going on in our community. I think is we're kind of building a generation that doesn't know what to teach. You know what I'm saying? So you got this generation of parents that don't have education themselves. And so if you don't have education yourself, it's kind of hard to push education to your children. If you've never been to college, it's kind of hard to encourage your kids to go to college, even though you believe it's going to be a challenge. And so I think that's where the lack comes in. It's not that, the black parents are somehow a lot lackadaisical when it comes to raising their children, I think a lot of minority parents in general don't have the skills to be able to encourage their children to do more, because when you're not a lawyer, it becomes a lot more challenging to encourage your child to become a lawyer. And so in the situation that you gave, that's why that lawyer can do that, because he's been there. He knows what it takes. He knows what it's going to be necessary to become a lawyer. And so he can lead his child down the path to become a lawyer because he's been there. But if all you've done is work at McDonald's and you became the shift manager at McDonald's and you take care of your family, there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's all you've done, it's kind of hard to say now to my son or daughter, you need to be, a doctor.
I mean, but
I think that's where the lack
that's what
comes
you
from.
learn, though.
But that's all. To piggyback on that, it's like I know a whole bunch of white people that have. It was just that certain case, or some of them parents did go to college. Their parents were working professionals, but they were not, because they weren't made to do this. They might have said, "Oh yeah, you need to go to college." They might have enrolled, but a freshman year, by their sophomore year, they were at the house, being around town like I wouldn't say like everybody, but what we think the black people are doing. They're being around town like them too.
I really do also look at guidance counselors, because there are so many other options besides colleges, because colleges don't even teach you how to run your own businesses. I personally prefer a trade school because that's the closest thing that teaches you how to run your own businesses.
And I think there's lots of different options. It really absolutely, contact somebody that does have vocational and career development experience so that you can get educated about those various options, because it may not be what you need, and there's lots of different ways to getting to the same place. But I think a lot of times, as far as what you were saying, Mr. King, about the actual differences in race and education, I think that there even are some people, I don't think that the way that they parent their child, it relates to their career. I think that it oftentimes just relates to the way that they have developed the child in general. Have they allowed the child to, think beyond certain pathways? Have they encouraged the child to do certain things? Because I've seen people who, a perfect example, I was in college with a young lady that her weekly allowance was $10,000.
Wow.
However, she was on probation in college. All she had to do was go to school.
What?
That's deep right there.
Repeat that again.
$10,000 a week. She had over $1.5 million in her bank account and was failing school.
No, ma'am.
So,
No, ma'am.
so I don't necessarily. I'm sure her parents, apparently, are very wealthy, and they probably tried to instill in her what she should have done.
And I guarantee,
but she had no motivation.
They will get her a job through somebody.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
But
I'm
yeah.
sure they will.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right.
They're going to get right.
She's gonna be somebody's boss too.
Exactly.
Right.
That's the
See,
scary
that's
part.
just through connections, she's going to ascend.
Yes.
But she still doesn't have that same work ethic
Right.
that her
She
parents
doesn't.
have got to
No.
She
achieve.
doesn't. Mm-hmm.
But as Jay Real was saying, the person who works at McDonald's can't have that with their children because all they know is McDonald's.
I don't want to say they can't.
No,
I want to
yeah.
say
But that's
that
what you said.
I want to say that it becomes a more of a challenge.
Oh,
It becomes more of a challenge because clearly there are parents that didn't have a whole lot, but their sons and daughters have become doctors, lawyers, and whatever.
that's what I was saying.
And so it's out there, but it takes because it's really about like I say, it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what it's really about. And when your whole village doesn't have anything, when your whole village hasn't graduated from high school, when your whole village has never even had a thought about going to college, or maybe they had that thought but it quickly faded. That becomes a greater challenge to be able to achieve that success. Now it can be done, but it takes a lot of motivation from that individual, and I think that's lacking sometimes, and that's why we get into some of these situations.
I've met plenty of people in college that was like, I'm the first one of my family to actually go to college, and a lot of them were motivated a lot. But it really depends on the individual at the end of the day, how motivated they are themselves and how much they push themselves. Because, you can have so many people telling you X, Y, Z, but until you find it in yourself to want to succeed in life, it won't go anywhere. You'll be finding, dead ends.
So you got to have some strong perseverance.
Right.
And a whole lot of patience.
And lots of support from other people. I think that
and a lot of faith.
And a lot of Jesus.
Yes,
that's it.
A lot of prayer. Because I was the first person to get a master's in my entire family.
Oh, wow. You have a
Shout out to
master's?
Monica.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Shout out to Monica.
Yes.
We want to shout out Dr. Shaquille O'Neal also
One
for
time.
getting his doctorate at Berry in Miami.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
It's not saying that you can play basketball, you can play football, but it's still going to school that matters.
Right.
That's right.
Get him,
Right.
Mr.
Because
O'Neal.
eventually you retire from basketball.
Exactly.
He just didn't learn how to talk. That's it.
Well, actually, his speech is becoming better. He doesn't need a little bouncing ball at the bottom of the screen with the words. Yeah, he doesn't do that anymore.
I just want to say, this is the Shaq that
You sound like Elvis.
I got my doctorate. You get yours too.
Elvis is not dead, people.
You get yours
Elvis
too.
is in the building.
Get the doctorate at Barry.
But there are a lot of resources that I think the Black community should really take advantage of to help with either your maintaining relationships, learning how to have appropriate relationships, or even just learning to motivate yourself, like we've been talking about. So that was kind of.
Just kind of piggybacking on that, it's not so much that the resources are out there. It's a matter of changing the mindset to want to take advantage of the resources, and that's the key. Because there's always plenty of resources, but do you have the mindset to want to take advantage of that resource? And maybe it's a pride issue, maybe it's an ignorance issue, but that's it. You just have to change your mindset, which all comes through education. I've said this before. I think the thing that we just talk about the Black community being in the state it is in today. I think the foundation of changing it all runs back to ultimately education. We have to be more educated. We have to take a more proactive role in making sure our community gets educated. And that's not going to come from the government. That's going to come from individuals who can, doing, and then the individuals who can't, helping. And over time, I think if we started today, we're probably 20 years away from seeing the fruition of all of that. But we have to start. And the longer we wait to start, the longer it's going to take for us to see the fruits of that labor. And I think that is the whole piece of the puzzle that we never address is education. We always seem to be focused on what somebody else is trying to give us or what they aren't giving us, rather than stepping up ourselves. When you look at some of the laws today, not that starting a charter school is easy, but starting a charter school is possible. And funds are out there to kind of get you supported as long as you have a structure and a system. And so, who's going to better educate our kids? Is it going to be through government schools? I think we've proven that that's not the case.
At all.
And so we need to create our own schools and good schools. I'm not just saying just go open up a school because you can. They need to be good schools, the structure of a good school, so that we can educate our own kids and make sure our own kids are getting what we need and getting to college campuses or getting to the good vocational programs, because we're always going to need a plumber, we're always going to need an electrician, we're going to need somebody to we live in Florida, so we're going to need somebody to fix the AC. And so those are all great job opportunities out there, as well as going to colleges and bettering yourself to become the doctors or the lawyers or whatever else kind of career field that you want to go into. But education is the key. Even educating for those that want to do music, educating them to see that there's a lot more that you can do than besides be in front of the mic. As a matter of fact, a lot of times the people behind the scenes are getting paid more than the people on the mic. So it's education, and a lot of kids don't even realize that. They just see Jay-Z as the great artist, but not even realizing Jay-Z is the exception. There's a guy behind Jay-Z that you've never even heard of that still makes $500,000 a year, and so education. We gotta educate our kids that and whatever they want to do, that there's options out there, and you don't always have to be the guy in the front. A lot of times the guy in the back can make just as much as the guy in the front, and if not more, because Jay-Z has a limited time that he's going to be a great artist. But that guy behind the scenes, he has 20, 30 years that he can produce and help create great artists. So there's longevity in that. So education, education. When we going to start building our own schools, people? That's what we need to do.
I think Obama said it about Joe the plumber. I think that was Obama that was talking about Joe the plumber. Am I right about that, Brother Real?
I don't know. What did you think he said about Joe the plumber, brother?
That's a good question right there. What did he say about Joe the plumber?
That's the question.
He was talking about building vocational schools for Joe the plumber. That's what he was saying. But I think that if people choose a job that they like, they will never have to work a day in their life. It's a quote by Micah King.
Yeah, but that goes back to though. But that goes back to what you said earlier. A lot of people make their kids do this, make their kids do that. That's why I think it's important to let your kids kind of find their own way. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on the situation. You have a kid, they express their interest in something in particular to like push them towards that, or because I think a lot of times parents, we try to make our kids be something that they're not.
But that's what they did in the olden days. If I was a steel mill worker, then my child was a steel mill worker. If I was took horseshoes off and fixed horseshoes, then that's what the child did. That's what they did back in the day. And so I feel that.
But we got a lot more opportunities than steel mills and horseshoes.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm a lawyer, then I have more opportunities.
As a matter of fact,
then too though, the thing you have to remember too is a lot of times that was all their option was back then. College wasn't an option for a lot of people back then.
And I think even if you get a chance to decide, there's still some exploration that has to be done. Sometimes you get into a career and then you realize this is not what you want to do.
This is not what exactly.
And you see that all the time.
Right.
People
That's why I say
changing careers 20 years later.
That's why I say it's important. You gotta let people find their way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I see time is winding down on us as always. It just never seems like it's enough. And so we're going to kind of run the table here and get any final comments anybody wants to say tonight. We'll start with you, Miss Monica.
Well, I actually, I've said a lot, but I'll definitely push again the benefit of getting resources. And if you're interested in finding more information on how you can help your community, you can definitely give me a call at 321-872-7720. I actually have a marriage enrichment training for those that are interested in helping individuals better their marriage. So the number is 321-872-7720.
All right. Miss McCurry, you got any comments tonight?
That's good stuff there. Just following up on the education, the importance of education, and starting early. Read to your children, read to your babies, read books, other than magazines, other than blogs, actual books about things that are more than just pop culture. Like read some history books. Just find some stuff that's interesting, that's going to make you think outside the box a little bit.
And book reports also. Because when I was younger, I had to do a book report every month on a different book, and that's the only reason I read a bunch of books, because I had to do a book report
and
on
the
it.
Pizza Hut reward system.
Exactly.
Yeah, you remember that back in the day?
Remember that? And that's exactly why you
that personal pan pizza.
Exactly. Man, had to read just to get that.
Yes.
Real quick, I just want to get say a pre-Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Oh,
Yes,
happy
Happy
Mother's
Mother's
Day.
And then I also want to send a challenge out to our listeners. Why every time we talk about relationships, love, and whatever, something little, I guess, funny, we get callers? Tonight we talking about something serious. Ain't nobody called. We got to do better. That's what we're talking about as people progressing. We got to do better. I know y'all got opinions on these things. Call up 47894-1680. Next week, though. All right. To you, JJ.
And I'd just like to say, again, choose a job that you like, and you will never work a day in your life.
You want somebody to put that on Wikipedia, y'all.
Yeah, I think he should.
Micah King, that's MICAHKING. But we want to thank you guys for joining in. Remember, you can check us out on Facebook, Real Family Talk, Twitter, Real Family Talk, and check out the YouTube page. Yeah, all the shows are up. Also, Real Family Talk. Have a nice evening.
WOKB, Winter Garden, Orlando.
Made my life worth living.